We're Robin and Steve. In the last episode, we left you at sea level, on top of a mountain. The ocean around Minerva Reef is 2 kilometres deep, and we'd stopped at this lagoon to get some much-needed shelter from the low-pressure system that was approaching. Let's backtrack a little bit. A week ago, we'd left Tapua in nasty weather, but then enjoyed a pleasant sail of 800 or so nautical miles. It took us 6 days to reach Minerva Reef, with the last day being an inefficient zigzag upwind. It was weird to arrive at Minerva Reef at night and to see a forest of anchor lights in the middle of the ocean. The next day we caught up with our friends from Genki and explored. In a conservative way, because we were pretty tired. We hear the best diving is on the outside of the pass, but we stuck to the inside. Steve and I both had cameras, so this poor shark was a bit like a celebrity on the red carpet, but it was just minding its own business. Let's see it from another angle. It just wanted a nap in a snug cave. Our friends went further afield in their dinghy, and here's what they brought back.
So, mango chat? Others too. They're tasty.
The Genki crew, Sarah and Campbell, invited us for dinner. It was delicious. A cruiser's net was held via radio here in the middle of the ocean so that random boats could help each other out. Campbell had a request.
Anything else of interest and then we close.
We wanted to swap tartaric acid for limes.
What's tartaric acid?
It's used for preserving lime cordial. Over.
What cream of tartar?
And success. Another boat had tartaric acid and wanted limes, and the deal was all sorted via VHF radio. By now the winds were building, and we were glad we made it in time. Before it got too awful, Steve scrubbed the hull. And as Campbell was out foiling, a tsunami warning came over the radio.
Based on all available data, hazardous tsunami waves are forecast for some coasts. I'll read it out in summary form. 1 to 3 metres for Vanuatu.
The wave was due in 5 minutes. There would be no time to get out to deep water, so thank goodness where we were the wave was undetectable. The storms, however, were on the way. There was thunder and lightning, which I didn't film, and winds of 40 knots where we were and higher nearby. Some boats had their anchors dragged and had to reset in the dark near a reef. No fun. But by morning it had settled down enough to make our way out of the reef and head on towards Tonga. It's nearly 800 nautical miles from Apua to North Minerva Reef, and only 270 nautical miles from Minerva Reef to Tonga Tapu, and we're not only over halfway from New Zealand to Tonga, but all the bad weather is behind us. Here I'm being what we call the circle hog, and Steve's job here is what we call twiddling the ropes. And we do swap back and forth between those roles, depending on our moods. This was the nicest overnight passage I've ever had. With 12 knots from behind, we settled into the old routine of 3 hours on, 3 hours off.
is our Robin stance for 900 nautical miles.
We heard that there were over 40 other boats at Minerva Reef when we were there. So unsurprisingly, some boats overtook us between Minerva Reef and Tonga. Seems it wouldn't be a passage without something breaking. This time it was our boom kicker. Here Steve's cleaning up the oil. But that was our only drama. It was a pretty mellow crossing. Calm enough to do the washing and hang it out. To do some stretches balancing on one leg. This exercise is definitely for calm weather only. Thanks for illustrating this, Steve. Sometimes 42 feet seems too small, like for poor Steve when I'm trying to practice ukulele. It's not a pretty sound. Yet. As Rakali galloped over smooth waters, Steve did some maintenance. Our freshwater foot pump was playing up. So Steve checked all connections, from the tank to the pump, and soon it was again in good working order. This must be noontime. Noon is when Steve does the ship's log. Oh, and by the way, that's the last bit of cake there. This is the view from my daybed, which sounds glamorous. It's really just a piece of cloth. So comfy. When it's my watch, I like to do some food preparation in the cockpit, both because it's a better view and because it's less likely to wake up Steve. On our last day, Steve hooked something big. To make it a bit easier for him to haul it in, I hove to. It's murder and a crying shame. Also very yummy. Mixed feelings. As it dies, the skin of the mahi-mahi goes through brilliant colour changes. I wonder why.
Oh, right. That's nearly me.
It was our last night before arriving in Tonga, and we were joined by this bird, who kept Steve company from midnight to 3, and then after 3 a.m. stayed on with me. For a while. At around 4:30 a.m. it got a little bit twitchy, sat near the edge, and then eventually plopped into the water. I guess we were just too slow. Here I'm doing the most boring and disgusting craft project around. Despite our efforts, the world's not set up to be plastic-free yet. So I chop up and squish our soft plastics into a small jar, 2 weeks' worth of rubbish in one small jar. Here we're raising our yellow quarantine flag. Little did we know it would fly longer than expected. It's land! That's Tonga. Well, part of Tonga. Tonga does have around 170 islands. And just to make sure we weren't daydreaming, it also has many reefs. We made sure we kept this one on our windward side. As is now our tradition, we had welcome to new country pancakes. Not only delicious, but a good way to use up our last eggs before the customs check-in. Steve radioed Port Authority to let them know that we were on our way. Thank you, mainsail. Time to pack you away. It's weird entering a new port when you're not quite sure where to anchor. This is where we were to go to get our visas once checked in. This is the port of Nuku'alofa. It's our friends from Genki. There were so many boats arriving from overseas that we were told to anchor off Pangai Motu Island. If you have to wait for customs, this is the place to do it. It was finally time to relax. The customs boat arrived at Genki pretty early on, so they were free to go. Eventually we were all free to move around, but the Genki crew beat us to town and gave us some bananas. Our first night in Tonga was perfectly calm, as was the first morning. Steve celebrated by sleeping in, and this is how I celebrated. Now officially checked in, we'd taken down the quarantine flag and had our Tongan flag flying proud. Next it was off to town to do the official stuff and get some vegetables. And get drenched by this squall. We got a SIM card and new Tongan phone numbers. While Steve waited in the visa queue, I hit the markets. And there was more food on offer at roadside stalls. What joy! We went to the post office to get scary mugshots for our visas, and then saw these beautiful handicrafts being prepared for delivery. And even the stamps got us excited to be here. Guess where this is? This gorgeous coral is right beside the port of Nuku'alofa. With coral this good right next to the city, I was pretty excited. And now officially checked in to Tonga, we were free to go and explore. Join us next time as we island hop from the Tonga Tapu group to the Hapai group and the Vava'u group. And just in case you didn't believe me that this coral is near the port, there's the port.